Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So in this video we will be looking into some AWS advanced networking services, right? So as far as we have covered about VPC. So what is VPC? Like we can create a private network in AWS cloud, but there are some other things that we should also know about networking services in AWS. For example, VPC pairing. There's a concept of VPC pairing in AWS, so that we will cover in this video. And then there are transit gateways that we will also cover, like what are the transit gateways and what's the purpose of this transit gateway, right? So that we will also cover in this video, as well as we will cover about VPN. So there are two types of VPN, so we will cover both of them, like site to site VPN in AWS, like how we can create a site to site VPN and what are the benefits of it. And there's a client VPN as well. So what is client VPN and how it differs from site to site VPN? So that we will cover in this video. And apart from that, we will also cover direct connect. So what is direct connect and what are the purpose of direct connect? So all those things we will try to cover in this video, and I'll try to cover some demo for the videos that is possible. So I'll try to cover a demo for VPC pairing. That's an easy thing. So that will be covered. I'll try to create a demo for transit gateway, right? For site to site VPN, I'll try to do a demo, but I'm not sure whether it will be successful or not. So I'll try to prepare for the demo, and if it's successful, then I'll show you how it can be done. And client VPN, I'll do a demo. And direct connect is something which I won't be able to do a demo because it requires some on-premises devices which I don't have. So that's the reason. So yeah, let's get started with the first thing, VPC pairing, right? So let's take a look at VPC pairing first. So VPC pairing is quite simple and it's very easy to implement. So VPC pairing, what is VPC pairing? So VPC pairing is a concept in AWS where we would be able to connect two VPCs together privately, right? Using VPC pairing. So let's suppose we have a VPC1 here and VPC2 here. So we have two VPCs and it could be in different regions. So let's suppose the VPC1 is in US East 1 and it could be in different AWS accounts, right? And the other VPC, let's assume this particular VPC is in US East 2 region, right? And it can be in different AWS account as well. So it's not a requirement that both the VPCs needs to be in AWS in the same AWS account. So it could be different. So VPC pairing is the concept where we would be able to connect two VPCs privately. So the requirement is to have, for example, let's take a real world scenario. Let's suppose we have two VPCs and we have resources running here. Let's suppose we have EC2 instance here and we have a database here. And we have a requirement to connect this EC2 instance with this database. So the first thing that without a VPC pairing, what we can do is we can put this particular database in a public subnet and we can have a public IP address, and from this EC2 instance the request to this database will go publicly over the internet to this particular database. So this request will go over the internet. So the problem here is the database is in public subnet and it has a public IP address, sorry. So it would be a very it's a security vulnerability because we do not want our database to be in a public subnet, right? So to resolve this, we can create a VPC pairing between these two VPCs, and the communication from one VPC to other VPC will be done privately, right? So the request will not go over the internet to any of the resources in both the VPCs. So there are some things that we need to consider before creating a VPC pairing. So both the VPCs, let's suppose we have a VPC, so both the VPCs should not have the same CIDR blocks, right? So same CIDR block should not be there between the same VPCs. Let's say we have a CIDR block 10.0.0.0/16 here, and the same CIDR block should not be there, or any overlapping CIDR block should not be there in another VPC, so that the IP addresses should not overlap with each other, right? And the second thing that we need to consider is there's no transitive routing. So what does that mean, no transitive routing? let's suppose we have three VPCs, VPC A, VPC B, and VPC C. We have created a VPC connection between A to B, and we have created a VPC peering connection between B to C. So the resources from A to B will be able to communicate with each other, right? Resources from B to C will be able to communicate to each other, but resources from A to C will not be able to communicate to each other. So it doesn't mean if we are sending a request from A VPC to VPC C and it will be routed via VPC V. So it is something which is not possible. So there's a one VPC pairing between A to B, and there's another VPC pairing between B to C. And if we want to have a communication between A to C, then we'll have to create another VPC pairing between A to C, which is the third VPC pairing. So we need to create three VPC pairings between three VPCs if we want to communicate to all of them, right? So these are some key considerations that we need to follow before creating a VPC. Sorry, before creating a VPC pairing, right? So let's jump into AWS console and let's see it in the demo, like how we can create a VPC pairing. Okay, so I'm in my AWS console now, and I'll just go to the VPC service here, and I'll create one VPC in Mumbai region, right? So I'll just quickly go to my VPC. So this is the default VPC. I'll not use the default VPC. I'll create a new VPC over here, and I'll just give it a name. Let's say Balvinder VPC 1. I'll just quickly create this VPC. So this VPC will be provisioned. In the meanwhile, what I'll do is I'll go to Singapore region from here, and I'll quickly create another VPC here. So I'll give it a name, Balvinder VPC 2. So the CIDR should not be the same. So I'll just change the CIDR over here so that it will not overlap with the previous CIDR, right? So this is the new CIDR which will not overlap with the 10.0 series. I'll just create a VPC here. So two VPCs will be created, right? So to create a VPC pairing connection, what I'll do is I'll need to create a pairing connection from VPC 1. So from either of the VPC, you would be able to create a VPC pairing connection. So I'm just picking up the VPC 1, and I'll create a VPC connection here, and I'll give it a name. Let's say VPC 1 to VPC 2. So this would be the name of that VPC pairing. So requester, VPC ID requester. So who would be the requester for this particular VPC? So this is our VPC, VPC 1 in Mumbai region. So we have an option to create a peering connection between other accounts as well and other regions as well. So if we have the other VPC in other AWS account, we would be able to use this another account option, and we can pass the account ID over here. But as of now, I have the VPC in the same AWS account, so I'll use my account. But the VPC is in a different availability zone. Oh, sorry, different region. So I'll choose another region, and over here I'll select Singapore. So, and from here, who would be the acceptor? So I'll select the VPC ID here. So it's not coming up. I'll just copy the VPC ID from the AWS console from Singapore region, and I'll just manually put it here. Otherwise, it would be shown up in the drop-down box, but I'm not sure why it's not coming here as of now. So I'll create a pairing connection now. So as you can see, the pairing connection is created, but it would be in pending acceptance state. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to go to my another VPC in Singapore region, and from there I'll have to accept this particular request. So if I'll go to my Singapore region, I'll go to pairing connection here. I would be able to see this particular VPC pairing connection that I just created. So the status of this particular pairing connection is pending acceptance. So I need to accept this particular pairing connection. So I'll just go over action and I'll do accept request, accept. So a pairing connection has been created between both of the VPCs, but this is not all that we need to do. We'll have to do some more customizations. Let me tell you what customization we'll have to do is. So we have two VPCs, right? So here's VPC 1, here's the VPC 2. So these VPCs, a pairing connection has been created between both of them. So the VPC 1 has route tables, right? And this VPC 2 will also have route tables. So we'll have to update the CIDR block of the first VPC, which is 10.0.0.0/16, and the other VPC 10.1.00/16. So this is the other CIDR block. So in VPC 1, we'll have to allow this particular CIDR range from VPC2, so which is 10.1/16. So we'll have to allow this using a pairing, using a VPC pairing connection. So it would be PCX, something like that. And the same thing we'll have to do in root table of other VPC, the VPC2. So in this root table, we'll have to do 10.0.0, which is the CIDR of VPC1, and we'll have to create a pairing. We'll have to route this traffic to the pairing connection, which would be PCX something, some pairing ID, right? So that we'll have to do here. So let's go to our VPC1, and over here, this is the root tables. I'll have to select, okay, just a second, I'll have to refresh this page. Yeah. So these are the root tables from the VPC1. I'll just quickly filter it out. Balvinder VPC1, right? So on this, in this root tables, I'll have to create a root. So as of now, this is the default root which got created. I'll just edit this. I'll add a new root, which is 10.1.0.0/16, which is the CIDR block of our Singapore VPC. And the target would be pairing connection, which is this one. We just got created it, right? And I'll just save this. So this is something we'll have to do with all of our root tables. So this is done for the VPC1, and the same thing we'll have to do in VPC2. So if I'll go to root tables, I'll have to update the root entry. I'll just quickly do it. 10.0.0.0/16 from pairing connection, this one. Save changes. Okay, so I have updated all the root tables between both the VPCs, VPC1 and VPC2. So the communication should be done between both the VPCs, because root tables are accepting the traffic between both. So it should be completed. The other thing that we'll have to do is to update the security groups. For example, we have a, let's say we are taking this scenario where we have an EC2 instance in VPC1 and we have a database in VPC2. And to create a communication, we have created this VPC pairing and we have updated the root tables. The other thing that we'll have to do is, in the security group of this particular database, we'll have to allow, in this security group, we'll have to allow the IP address of this particular EC2 instance, right? So that the database at the security group level, it should also be allowed, right? So that is something which we'll have to do now. Okay, so for the demo, what I have done is I have created one EC2 instance in Mumbai region, and I have created a database in Singapore region, right? So what I'll try to do is I'll try to create a communication between this instance to this database, right? So this database is in creating state. So let's wait till this database is created. Once the database is up and running, then we'll create a communication between both these instances, like from EC2 to RDS instance. So yeah, let's wait. Okay, so the database instance in Singapore region is provisioned and it is in available state. So what I'll try to do is I'll just get into my EC2 instance in my Mumbai region, which is in VPC1. I'll just took an SSM connection of the same, and I'm able to do that. So I'm inside this instance, and what I'll try to do is I'll just try to do a telnet of this particular database instance, which is in another VPC. And if I'll try to do is telnet and then the endpoint of this particular database on port 3306. So it is resolving to the private IP, which is good, but I'm not able to connect to it. The reason for the same is I have not updated the security group of this particular database instance to accept the connection from this particular EC2 instance from the VPC1, right? So what I'll do is I'll just quickly go to the security group of this database. I'll just select it and I'll just put the CIDR range of this instance. The type would be MySQL, and the IP address is, I'll just copy it from here. So I'll have to copy the private IP address, not the public, because we are creating a private communication between both the VPCs. So it should be done over the private IP addresses, right? So I'll just copy this private IP. I'll put it in security group. I'll save it, and I'll go to my instance again, and I'll just do this telnet again. So as you can see, I'm able to connect to the database now, which is connected, right? So this is how we can create a VPC connection between both the VPCs, right? So this is useful where you have less number of VPCs. Let's say you have 2 or 3 VPCs where you would be able to manage the VPC pairing connections. But if you have a large number of VPCs, let's say 10, 15 VPCs, so it becomes very headache thing where we'll have to manage all the VPC pairing by our own. We'll have to update the route tables and everything. So at that place, what we will use is we will use transit gateway. So I'll cover about transit gateway, what is transit gateway and everything, and I'll try to show you a demo of it.